Alright, a U140E. This one come in, no codes, loses reverse after hot, slips on takeoff, very harsh upshifts. 12 millimeter on the end cover. Millimeters on the bell housing and the pump. I mean, not the pump, on the inside here. My cooler lines on there, 10 millimeters on the pass-through connector and the neutral switch. Seven-eighths on this nut right here, just loosen that up. You don't have to take it all the way off. That makes it easier to get your neutral switch off. Okay, now you can get, there's several places in here where you can get in. You can pop your end cover off. You want to look real close at your ring lands right here. Make sure that there's not too much play up and down. Bearing here. There's a 10 millimeter on these tubes. You want to take these tubes off. This one you have to take out to get the drum out. The other one you don't have to take off to get the drum out, but you're going to want to take it out. And we're going to want to air check and make sure that it's not cracked. Usually it'll crack right up around this portion right here if it cracks, but it's usually this tube. I have seen one of these that was cracked, so you want to check them both. Alright, pull your drum out. There's a race here and a bearing and a race here. Looks like our converter clutch has come apart. There's chunks of it up in here. Pretty common now. We just have to hope that the planetaries didn't get destroyed. Clutches are dark, a little burnt. These are molded pistons in here, so you're going to want to replace them all. I'm going to take the drums apart right now. There's a piston. Look, there's more of our converter clutch. There's a piston, return spring, balance piston, snap ring. And our washer is destroyed that goes here. There's a plastic washer that goes in there. Alright, bearing, make sure it's okay. Make sure your sun gear is okay. No pits or teeth missing. Make sure where the clutch is right is okay. It's not all beat up. You can see where they've been riding on there, but it's still pretty smooth. Sprag assembly, turning counterclockwise, locking clockwise. Her shell looks to be okay. Alright, here's some of our washer. Snap ring on here that holds the planetary in. Okay, looks like our planets are going to be okay. There is something we're going to have to do to them. Bearing and race, sun gear. What we're going to do is when we get bearing and race, we get the whole planetary assembly out of here. These pinions are bad about wearing out. And oh, that may be too bad to fix. What you can do is you get the planetary out and you assemble it back together, and that centers up your pinions, and you can weld those pins in there to where they don't come out and wear anymore. I'll have to make a judgment call on that when I get this all the way disassembled, but if you don't do it yourself and the planetaries that you get are not welded, you're going to want to weld them when you put it back together. Alright, snap rings down here at 530. I don't think it matters where this snap ring goes. A little burnt like the rest of them. Alright, there's another snap ring. More converter clutch. Snap ring opening is up here at 11 o'clock. I had always thought I'd done a video on this, but notice that I have not. Alright. We're going to have to take our valve body off. See if we can get a good view of that. Somebody has had the pan off, full of silicone, filters sucked shut. Alright, disconnect our harness. 8mm on this temp sensor. There's a little bracket that holds that in there. $10mm on the filter and valve body. I keep my filter bolts separated. That way I don't have to hunt for them. Nobody replaced the O-ring on the filter. That's probably what took this unit out. And there's all of our, a lot of our converter clutch right there. Did I miss one? Yes, it did. Alright, there are a lot of valves can be worn out in that valve body, so you need to go through that valve body and check it out really good. You might want to put a new one on it, or a rebuilt one, or buy all the reamers and do it yourself. 2 flat seals here, a thick one here, thinner one here, tube seal. That wiring harness will come out now. Be careful when you knock it out that you don't screw up any of the wires. Okay, I leave my linkage in. I will be taking it out for the Patreon side of it just to document all of this, but I normally don't take it out. I just pop my linkage seal out with a pocket screwdriver and change it like that. I leave all this in here. If you want to take it out, 10mm, 3/12. There's a clip here you pull out. There's a retainer that covers the roll pin. You need to take it and turn it. It's got a indentation right here to keep it from turning. You're going to have to turn it. You're actually going to want to turn it back that direction. You'll see that there's a cutout in there. You line that up with your roll pin. You drive your roll pin through the retainer, and then all of this will come out. You do not need to put that retainer back on there. You do not need to buy a new one. That roll pin is not going to come out of there. So don't worry about that. Okay. Our center support will come out now. If your planetaries were bad, this can be really difficult to get out of here. You need to bring this out as straight as you possibly can. And like I said, with all the chunks of metal, this can be difficult to get out of here because it's going to try to hang up and it's going to gouge the case, and it's just can be a real mess getting this out of here when the planetaries are bad. There's a snap ring here. Just pop it off, just push down. There's a little nub here that keeps this in there. Push it down far enough to pop the snap ring out, take it out, blow some air in here, and your piston will come out. And then our clutches will come out of here. A little burnt like all the rest of them, not too horrible, but it will get replaced. Okay, there is a piston, a return spring, snap ring, return spring, and a piston in here, right here. You have to take your planets out to get to it. I'm not going to take it out right now. I'm going to make sure that we can get this sold before I go through the hassle of undoing all that stuff. So that's not going to get shown right now. Make sure that your springs stay with your accumulators and that you remember which position they went into, because they can be different for different vehicles. So make sure that you keep everything together. Two springs here, cooler check valve and spring here. Okay, now our bell housing will come off. Just get in here and tap it off. You can pry it off if you want to. Let's see if I can get up on here. Get this out of there. Bearing and race here. When you wash this in the hot tank, these races are probably, this bearing and that race is going to fall out. The race here. Our differential will come out. Make sure your spider gears are okay. And your pin's okay. Your teeth on your ring gear is okay. There's a seal here. Well, get out of there. There's a seal here. $10mm on this retainer that holds the pivot pin in for your park pawl. It's going to come out just like that. $12mm on the pump. Hub, bearing and race, bearing and race. You want to check right here where the clutches ride, make sure that it's not eat up. Race here. To get your planet out, look how loose that is. Knock that tab off, or not off, but push that tab down. And usually you need a socket to take this out, but looks like this one will probably just turn off by hand. That's your nut, retainer. Let's get a bushing driver and drive your planet out. I leave the transfer gear in there. There's really no need to take it out unless the bearing is bad, and that's not very common. There's a spring on your park pawl. Pop it around the pivot pin that's in down here that it hooks around. And you can take this out. I usually just leave it in there, slide it back, and just leave it in there. Take our pivot pin out before it gets lost. Slide that back and your planetary system will come out of here. It can be a little bit difficult to get a hold of. It's a little heavy. this drum will come out now, and when it's in there, there's a bearing and a race there. There's a race on top of this ring tower. When it's in there, it's going to turn, I believe it's counterclockwise and not clockwise. Yes, turn counterclockwise, lock clockwise. Alright, check our clutches in here. About the same as the rest of it. There's a snap ring, balance piston, return spring, regular piston. This transfer gear here, I usually just leave it all together. We'll take it apart for the Patreon side, but just make sure your turning torque is good, that none of the teeth are missing on your pinions in there, and that it turns smooth. You can feel it if it's bad, and if it's bad, this whole thing's going to be bad. You're going to be replacing this whole thing. Make sure that bearing down in there feels good. If you want to take it apart, nut back here, take this race off, gear off, this gear, well, it'll be on the Patreon side if you want to see all that. Personally, I would not take any of this apart if I was you, unless you just had to. Alright, snap ring in here is down about 5 o'clock. Sprag assembly will come out. There is a little tensioner, I guess you would call it. It goes right here. It goes on this little lug right here. Make sure that you do not lose it. It goes on just like that. There's another snap ring underneath that. Opening is at the 5 o'clock. Hopefully I didn't sling oil all over my camera just now. Alright. Get our steels and clutches out of here. Make sure that you do order the right ones on your door jamb. When you get the car, open the door jamb, it'll tell you what tranny it is. The U140, the U240, U150, and the U250 look damn near identical. The clutches are different, and it'll tell you in that door jamb what you have. If you order the wrong kit, these clutches right here may be wrong, or they will be wrong if you order the wrong kit. Alright, in the bottom of the case there, let's see if this oil will drain out and we can see it. Here is another piston. Like I said, I'm not going to take it out right now. Snap ring, return spring, and if you can't get it out with a pair of needle nose, grab it on the edge of it there, just shoot some air in where the tube came in the back and fed that, and it'll pop out. Alright, when you wash your case, this race will probably come out. There's a race and a shim on this side. There's a bearing inside this drum here. Bearing and races. Take our clutches out, take a look at them. Alright, snap ring, return spring, piston. You want to check inside of here Make sure where the ring's right on from the pump, it's not all eat up. And this ring inside the pump, you want to check it. Typical of all the rest of them. .30 torques on the pump. Make sure your surface is okay here. These bushings are critical, so make damn sure that it's not worn. If it's got any wear in it, you're going to want to replace that. Dots on the gears face up. Make sure we're not all chewed up on here. Looks pretty good. You're going to want to clean all this up and check your clearance on here, and you're going to want it clean to do that. But this should be fine. Okay. This planetary is so bad, I don't think I'm going to try to weld it. I think I'm just going to make them buy a planetary for it. I can get by just this planetary in here because it didn't chew up anything else. So I'll buy that one. If it's not welded, I'll weld it. I guess that's it for this teardown. I have to check the valve body out, take it all the way apart and see what's worn out inside of it.